And good evening, Ospreys. I am John O'Loughlin. Welcome to my channels, McDuff Lives 3, McDuff Lives, and McDuff Lives 2. Broadcasting to all three channels tonight just to let everybody know to please migrate over to my McDuff Lives 3. We have strikes on the other two, and I don't want to lose them. So if we got another strike, I'd be afraid that the whole channel would go down. So that's why I'm asking everyone, please move over here to McDuff Lives 3. And, we've got 600 people there, but we've got 7,000 in the other channel and 1,000 in the other. So just need to get people aware that we have moved permanently to McDuff Lives 3 here on YouTube. And nothing further ado, I appreciate Bill Taylor joining us once again for an update from New Jersey. And hello, Bill.
Hi, John. How are you?
I'm fine, Bill. I'm just fine. Enjoying a little bit of spring weather, although it suddenly got cold. I guess that cold front has hit New Jersey too, right?
Yeah, no, it's snowing today. I call it the climate crisis. We had a climate crisis today.
Oh no!
Yeah.
Did you call the World Health Organization?
Yeah, trying to get Greta Thunberg to do something about it because I was outside most of the day, and we're only one step away from climate catastrophe, which would be the next step. That would be 2 days in a row of unseasonably cold weather.
That could be bad.
Yeah, it's if we get snow in April, it's a triple secret climate catastrophe, actually.
All right. Well, thanks for letting me know. And down here in Maryland, we're okay. It hasn't snowed yet today, although it got very, very cold. And I'm a little bit worried about my beets. I put some beets out last week, and you get overconfident in the springtime. You think they'll be all right.
Yeah.
They'll be all right, won't they, Bill?
Yeah. New Jersey's pineapple crop is in danger of freezing this year if it snows in April. So we'll probably get some federal aid for that.
Probably, yeah. All right. Well, I've been watching your Twitter, so you can't get away with just fluff tonight. We got to get into some serious content there, my friend. And by serious, I think there's probably nothing more serious than trying to break down the barriers between the American people and the truth of the Hunter Biden scandal. And if somehow, Bill, we could just alert everybody to the insanity of the Biden investments in Ukraine and how they all tied together, and then how they really did throw the election by suppressing the truth about the Biden laptop. You've made a few comments on that. Do you want to start there tonight?
I mean, it's difficult to wake people up. I mean, I think you have to wake them. Maybe these people are never going to wake up. Maybe that's how it's going to work. I mean, because everything, there's so many people vaxxed now, and there's so many people having vaccination problems, or at least it sounds like it. I can name more people having vaccination problems than who had, versus who might have become very sick from COVID. I mean, I don't think I know anyone who died from COVID, but or had heart problems.
You told us last time about a tragedy in your daughter's school. Any updates on that?
I mean, it's actually, so one of the girls. So these are three of my daughter's peers. They don't all go to the same school, but they're all teenagers. And they're all athletes. And one of the girls, who's the daughter of a good friend, they call her the old lady in the house now because she's on blood thinners, and she's going in for a stent in a couple months. She's 18 years old and played varsity soccer, and she needs a heart stent. I don't know anybody my age even that needs a heart stent yet. And I'm 52, or almost 52.
Well, we just got a heart stent. My wife did after a serious heart attack, and thank God she's okay. But when you get a heart stent, you also get a package of medications that you have to take all the time, and you have a bunch of them in the morning and a bunch of them at night. And the medicines have side effects and things that this young woman is going to have to suffer through for the rest of her life unless they can find a better way. But that's what they do when they put a stent in there. They give you blood thinners to make sure that it doesn't clog up, and all kinds of other medications I can't even describe.
Right. So it's tough to have these conversations with the parents. I haven't had any conversations. I don't bring it up. But you go back to the Hunter Biden laptop in the context of sort of the denial of what the vax was. Nobody wants to hear that this was all intentional as well. I mean, they're just in complete denial. They didn't want to hear that it might be vax related. I hear the term long COVID being thrown around all the time. Your long COVID is what really they're calling anybody with a severe vaccine reaction. They're calling it, long COVID, as if the COVID that they had two years ago is somehow creating blood clots or thrombosis or some other issue. But this is, I guess it's to make these people, to try and convince the people that this had nothing to do with the vax. But eventually the numbers will come out. They'll look at the numbers and say, well, really, there's no correlation between COVID and thrombosis or COVID and 18-year-old girls needing heart stents. The correlation is between the vax and the circulatory problems or whatever.
Yeah.
But one area that I thought, one avenue I thought was interesting. And I heard a podcast earlier in the week. I can't think of the gentleman's name. He's from BlackRock. Don't get all excited. He's BlackRock fund manager. He's been there for 30 or 40 years. So he's buying and selling stocks for one of the larger funds at BlackRock. He follows the market, and he's a professional, and he's looking at these adverse reactions from a money making or a money saving point of view. In that he follows the insurance companies. He wants to see what the insurance companies are saying, and the insurance companies are finding that they're writing, the premium check writers, people in the age 25 to 55, are dying at a much higher rate than what these insurance companies will be able to survive. Make a profit or survive.
Yeah,
he's looking at the wrong numbers.
Let's be specific about this, because it's not always that clear what the effect of these things is on insurance companies. But what I hear you saying is that, for instance, life insurance. When you buy life insurance and you're in your 20s, then your life expectancy is probably like 50 years or something like that.
Right.
But if all of a sudden you have a whole cohort of people that had bought their life insurance when they were in their 20s, and now they're 30s and 40s and starting to die, well, not only is it a tragedy for the person, it's also going to catch up with the actuaries and the bean counters over at the insurance company, and they're going to say, hey, we need to get some more cash in here because people are dying too fast. Do I understand that about right?
No, that's exactly right. The actuaries are very, very statistical, very scientific, and they know, they base the premiums, that they sell. They base that on your life expectancy. And if you're 30 years old, you're supposed to live until you're 88 years old. And if you're not smoking, maybe 89, whatever the numbers are, and it's all, what you're paying is based on that. But they're seeing such a high rate of early deaths, okay, that, premature deaths, people in their 30s and 40s, they're supposed to be funding the life insurance proceeds of people in their 80s and 90s who are dying now, and then the company has to pay out. It works on so many different levels because it's very hard to ignore. I mean, the life insurance companies, they half of a life insurance company or any insurance company is involves calculating risks for all types of events, whether it's a death or car accident or something happens to a company, they get this data raw all day long. And he's saying this is such a complete tragedy. He's saying basically they've lost the excess death count in the millennial generation is surpassed that of the entire Vietnam War, and the excess death count in Generation X has also surpassed that in that of the entire Vietnam War. So 58,000 dead, extra dead in the millennial generation right now. That was how many people died in the Vietnam War, approximately.
Yeah.
It's the numbers don't lie. So one of the other things to actually try and find some of these numbers is kind of difficult. I don't know who's, the insurance companies will give out these numbers, but in a summary version. What I did manage to find I thought was interesting was, and I've noticed this too, and maybe everybody else has. People seem to notice it, but the number of car accidents, people are driving like idiots these days. Basically, let's put it like that. I've noticed it, but it's just anecdotal. It seems like people just don't care. They're just pulling out in the middle of nowhere. But other people have noticed it too, and it's like, but if one person says, another person says, it's still anecdotal. So what I did was I looked at Allstate, which is one of the biggest car insurers in the country, and they had an interesting presentation last week. I actually posted some of the screenshots. I'll share it here. Let me share the screen. Okay. I don't know if that's popping up on your side. Let's see. It should be there. Or if you don't, there it is.
There you go. I had to put it up. There we are. All right.
So this is Allstate, what they were seeing through, I think, November or maybe December, maybe even a part of the first quarter of 2022. They're seeing the loss ratios are going through the roof. And part of it is because of inflation. Okay, if you crash your car and it costs $500 to fix your bumper, maybe last year it would only cost $350 to fix a bumper. So that's a factor. But it also says that some of these factors involve they're seeing more accidents. So the loss ratio number that they show there, it's just a function of premiums written versus payouts. So on average, a normal year it'll be 65 cents will be 65 cents in payouts for every dollar of premiums that come in. It dipped there in the second quarter of 2020 when everybody stopped driving during the COVID quarantine lockdown, but now it's up at 72%. So what that little chart there says is they're paying out more for accidents than they historically have, which is pretty. This is through November, through September of last year, and they were seeing worse trends in the fourth quarter, and I thought that was interesting. But if you go to the Department of Transportation, they don't really update. So the Department of Transportation updates crashes and fatalities. They keep track of every type of crash you can imagine. If you crash your blimp, the Department of Transportation has a department to track those crash blimps. But so they haven't been updating. But I did manage to find more very recent public data. The Arkansas Department of Public Safety, basically the Arkansas State Police, they keep track of every single accident and publish it monthly. Actually, they update it every day. Every time there's a new fatal crash in the state of Arkansas, they put a check mark next to that crash. So if you look at this is all public information. If you go do it on a trailing 12 months, for February 2020, or if we say it like this, trailing 12 months where for February 2020, there was 222 fatal crashes in the state of Arkansas. If you compare it to the 2021 period, it's these are comparable months. It's 258, and if you compare it for the 6 months that just ended on February 28th of 2022, you're up to 303 fatal crashes, and that's a big jump. At 17.4, it's a 17.4% increase in fatal crashes in Arkansas. And that's just Arkansas. That's a small sample. Arkansas is big enough to be a sample size. And that's close to what the Department of Transportation is seeing. They're seeing all these fatal crashes popping up now. And it's pretty impressive. You look at December of 2021, this past December, fatal crashes were up 50%. Okay. So there's something going on with this. There's something going on which is causing people to crash. And also, of course, with more crashes, there's more death. But there's a chart that basically shows it. It's that's basically what Allstate is saying. They're seeing more crashes, okay, more fatal crashes, more expensive crashes, and it's not just a function of the price of a bumper going up along with everything else. There's more volume of crashes and of course more fatal crashes with that.
I wonder how much of that is drug related, specifically fentanyl and all the opiates, because one of the things that I really don't like when I drive past our local police headquarters is that they have a sign, and you've probably seen them everywhere. There's a sign out in front that says DWI crashes, there are DWI arrests, year to date, and we say like 60 or something, and DWI crashes, fatalities, 12, and accident related 47 or something like that. Now that sign has been replaced by a sign that says number of opiate related fatalities, and then number of opiate related rescues or recoveries, where they give them that recovery drug that they carry around with them now,
right.
Narcan, I guess it's called. So in other words, the whole scene is no longer about alcohol. It's now about opiates, and that's what leads me to wonder if the connection that might be that people are just really too medicated to operate the machinery, but they're doing it anyway because what they have to pick up their kids at soccer practice, and hey, I had to take the meds or else I couldn't even function. So maybe that's it. Do you have any better ideas?
Well, I mean, but opiates. This is the increases are so large. I mean, if you're having a steady increase in opiate usage, I could imagine in the 21 period, 2021. See, that's up 16%. Now that I would say that's probably that could easily be a function of people sort of getting addicted to stuff during their lockdowns. Okay, and I know of at least one person who drank himself to death during the lockdown. And I've heard of I know of one other person who decided he quit drinking after 40 years of drinking because the lockdown was turning him into a morning drinker. So he went the other direction and got healthy and decided, I don't need to be doing this at my age. And they're two of my peers. So yeah, I could see, I could see people during lockdowns becoming more reliant on all kinds of opiates, and then maybe alcohol as well, and maybe both. And that's why you would see the increase in 21 over 2020. But for the most part, fatal crashes have been down every year for the past 20 years. I think the DOJ numbers that came out relatively recently, and they tweeted them out were saying, but it was basically the largest single year increase ever. And maybe it was comparable to 2007, but it's usually the trend has been down for a long time as far as fatal car accidents, just as a function of safety and better cars and you know, more policing and all kinds of positive attributes.
Well, let me just toss it back at you then. What is your theory? Why is there a 50% increase in fatalities, even in just this anecdotal, spitball collection, connection with one state's statistics? Do you have a theory of how?
I think it's the vax impairing motor ability. I mean, in attention, the attention spans of people. This is. From what I understand, so you keep hearing it's the anecdotal stories that sort of prove the data. I think this is decent data. It's Arkansas is not the biggest state, but there's a couple million people in this data point. But the anecdotal data is right. So one of my daughter's teachers was all gung ho with the vax, say late 50s, early 60s. Got her third one, came down with shingles. Okay, the second teacher to come down with shingles in the school. Okay, so after the holiday break, they came back, and now she has a stutter. So she won't say what it's from, but 60-year-old women don't develop stutter unless there's something going on in the wiring of their brain. Another slightly older grandfather. Aged person that we know has developed it. He's had a nervous tick, some sort of tick that's never been noticed. It was always suppressed because he could handle it, but now he just yells out like Ravishing Ric Flair, the whoop. Do you know Ravishing Ric Flair?
No.
Okay. He was a wrestler who would whoop it up at a professional wrestler, but this older gentleman who's had three shots. His brain is not quite working like the way it was. So I would say
it's something to look at, right?
I would say there's a reason for these fatal crashes. So much so that Allstate had to have a special call for it, and it's coming at a time when everybody is going. Anybody who wants it is getting their third booster, okay? And it's been going on a year. It happened after COVID, the year after COVID. It didn't happen the year of.
Mm-hmm.
And there's all kind of, there seems to be all kinds of things in this vaccine besides anything that works. Whether it's self-replicating things or who knows, but it seems to be causing a lot of problems.
We used to have this guy named Ralph Nader. You remember Ralph Nader?
Mm-hmm.
He's the guy that screwed up the Bush versus Gore election for all the liberals, because everybody knows that Gore would have won if Nader hadn't come in as a third party, and nobody will forgive those people that voted for Gore. For Nader, because it took the votes away from Gore. That was the theory, and I don't know about Nader anymore, but I do think that he's the last person that stood up against the big companies, against the car companies, and said, we've got to have safety, we've got to have safety belts or something like that. Maybe that was all just a play for some hidden interest that makes safety belts or something to just get us all used to being regulated. But at least he stood up said things for the average consumer, and nobody's standing up for the consumer right now and saying, hey, where is the safety check? Why don't we have somebody that's really looking into all these cases? A lot of anecdotes do add up at some point, but nobody's looking at it. Anybody in New Jersey taking responsibility? Is there, a health department there, or I don't see anything in Maryland.
No, and you would never. You would never get. They're still pushing. They're pushing the vax here like nothing's ever happened. I would say the the person from BlackRock, I think it's Dowd. I think is his name. He's interesting, and his main point is, the money, whatever you think about the vax, okay, if the money doesn't like it, all right, it's going to start walking. It's going to walk away from Allstate. It's going to walk away from Geico. It's going to, people take money off the table. They're looking at the numbers. They're looking at life insurance companies. They're looking at, he basically says Pfizer is a bankruptcy waiting to happen, but they do have a suite of products, so it'll be Chapter 11 bankruptcy. Moderna is a one horse company. They got their one single vax, and they'll be finished. They'll just be liquidated. I think it's interesting the way he puts it, because I was on Wall Street for a long time, and I understand that this is, for the most part, these are professionals making objective decisions, and they don't really have to have a political answer or any kind of answer. They could just look at the numbers and say, Allstate's numbers are not sustainable. They're gonna start losing money very soon, and I'm going to take my money off the table. These are not good. Car companies or car insurance are not good companies to invest in. Same with life insurance companies. And they even mentioned, the other play is funeral homes and mortuaries. That's you can go long the funeral home and short the life insurance company. Is the arbitrage.
All right. Well, let me take advantage then of your experience at Wall Street and ask you a question. I have a small pension from my service as a member of the American Bar, and it's basically all sitting in the stock market. I keep looking at it and thinking, wouldn't it be better if I was in gold? Or should I start getting out of the stocks, because it sure does look like a bubble. But everybody else is staying in, so maybe they know more than I do, and I should just stay in. What do you think? Is it time for me to run to gold, or should I leave my little bit of savings riding on the whims of Wall Street?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not in the market. I think it's very, the whole system is very corrupt and dirty. The Wall Street system, yeah. I mean, I would take money off the table, but that's what I would always do. It's the people making the decisions. You have some smart guys. You also have some stupid people too, and they're not necessarily, maybe the other side of the office at BlackRock. Okay, they're playing a different game, and you really don't know who's in charge of your money. I mean, it seems that the economy in general is very, very fragile, and if anything is going to take a hit first, it will be the equity markets, the stock markets. But there's just so many there's so many issues with so many uncontrollable variables, like what's going on in Ukraine or what's going on with the petrodollar. There's a huge level of what they call endemic risk. I mean, it's the whole system. The whole system is just risky. So gold is always safe. You can always buy a suit with an ounce of gold. That's what my father always said. Gold, no matter where you are in history, a ounce of gold will always buy you a suit.
Hey, listen, I got a great deal for you.
Yeah.
I have a closet full of suits, and I don't need them anymore, Bill. And they're really, really nice suits.
You're a lot taller than me, though.
Well, we'll find some tall, but come on, you're in the biz, man. Find some tall guy and Make it happen. Come on. 1 ounce. 1 ounce of gold for 6 suits. That's 6 ounces of gold. How much am I going to get for 6 ounces of gold?
What is gold at?
I don't know. What about?
Somebody post the price.
Maybe about 10 grand or so for 6 suits.
Look, I'm not against buying gold or silver.
You want to buy my suits?
No, no bid. What is he?
I thought you had a great idea there, Bill.
He said it's a new suit too. My father.
Oh, a new suit. Okay.
But tell George Webb, but he might fit.
How about silver?
Silver too. It's I mean, because there is a reason for gold and silver. I would argue that they went to the fiat currency, and these deep staters have been hoarding the gold and collecting it ever since.
Oh yeah.
So it's because it never inflates. It's always like I said, it always buys a suit. Okay, but if you change it to cash in 1919, okay, you change your ounce of gold to $36 in cash in 1919, you could go buy a nice suit for $36. Okay, if you just changed it to cash and kept that $36 under your mattress until 2021, okay, you're not getting a nice suit for $36. So that's the appeal. That's always the appeal of gold.
What about Sims? Sims, where all suits are value.
Yeah.
No. Haven't you seen the Sims ad? Come on.
Oh, of course. I used to shop at Long Island City. Had a huge Sims warehouse.
Yeah. Okay, so you're not going to buy my suit.
No.
But you did remind me of one of my big pet peeves, and that is the difference between currency and money, and how the Constitution reserves to the federal government the right to coin money, and how somehow somebody allowed them to turn that into the right to turn our currency system over to the big banks and let them print notes, promissory notes, and call them dollars and send them around in our circulation as if they were real money, but they're just pieces of paper, and it's fiat currency at this point because of all of the dilution and inflation of it. But it gets back to me to say, why couldn't we just have followed the instructions? It said so right there. It said coin money. What is a coin? A coin is something that has intrinsic value. It's silver, gold, copper, whatever you want to call it, whatever you want to use, as long as it has some intrinsic value. And it's not just a worthless piece of paper. That's one of my big pet peeves about our financial system. I think the founding fathers were right. We should have had real money to jingle in our pockets or hide under the bed, or but this business of believing, it's like everything's fake. You can believe that this is going to turn into some goods at some point, this little piece of paper with George Washington's picture on it. But every time that they do another quantitative easing, as they call it, that piece of paper becomes less and less valuable. Anyway, what do you think? Do you think we'd be better off if we had actually if we just get rid of the whole idea of full faith and credit in paper currency and say the government only insures coinage because that's what the Constitution says?
Yeah, no, it'd definitely be right. And I would have been a big defender of the Federal Reserve System and the idea of printing fiat currency for a long time, up until a couple of years ago. Until I think, because I could never conceive that somebody would deliberately create a monetary system where the value of what you're holding declines, and that there was no need to hoard assets, hard assets like gold or silver, because the idea of the fiat system is basically what happens is you don't have enough money circulating in an economy to do the things you want to do. There's no credit. That's why we had these panics of 1837 and 1898, or they went from panic to panic. But now I think these panics are probably engineered to eventually move to a non-gold-based system, so that these certain families could hoard the gold, right, and always be on top. Right? We didn't necessarily know, and I certainly didn't necessarily know that that was intentional. But now it looks intentional because you see how evil they have been for the past 100 years anyway. It goes right along with their pandemics and their assassinations and their coups and everything else that they've been up to.
Well, you remind me of the greenback dollar and Lincoln's financing of the Civil War by pledging the full faith and credit of the United States behind paper. But it was a federal creature that was made on behalf of the people and not on behalf of a bank. And that's the difference that we have. Is if we had even a currency system that was this is what the Schiller and LaRouche people are always talking about, or the Hamilton system, which they call the Hamilton system, meaning the federal government runs the banking system. And when the banks make money, that's good, because that's less taxes that the people have to pay, and that money is American, belongs to the people. And instead of using our taxes to pay off increasing amounts of interest on debt, that really just contributes to the problem. So, yeah, you're right. I shouldn't just restrict it to coin money when you do need to have circulation. And when that's what kills an economy, is when there's no money to circulate and no way that you can buy the things you need to, like you can't buy seeds to plant your crops. Well, that screws you for a whole year if you haven't got any seeds. That kind of problem.
Right. I mean, currency that's the function of it. It does have a function, and ideally it's around. And maybe it could be managed if it wasn't managed by evil people, right? Because the Federal Reserve does a pretty good job of making it look like they're managing it for the entire economy, not just a few. But ultimately, that's just a few come out in the end. Over 100 years plan, and I think that they do plan for 100-year type cycles. In the interim, everybody sort of benefits, but at the end, only a few people actually benefit, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and let's see. One of our renter here says coins are minted with different amounts of precious metals, and isn't that the case? That's of course what happened with the Roman Empire. Was they had silver coins, but the silver coins started having less and less silver in them. By the time the empire fell, the coins were fairly worthless, and that's another thing that they do, just to dilute. It's like a hidden tax. Inflation has been called a hidden tax on the common people, and that's what's happening right now. We're paying a tax when we pay that extra dollar for our gas, and we're paying. It's like they figured out a way to tax us without Congress having to pass the tax bill. It's a way to look at it.
No, it's easily. I noticed the price of gas did come off a little bit off of the highs. I think $4.39 was the most I paid here in Jersey. I saw $3.98 today somewhere. Yeah, I mean, but everything else is inflated too. It's almost like they're trying to inflate everybody into poverty. I mean, it's a multi-pronged attack, not just with the pandemic and false flags, but it's also exorbitant taxes. But nobody notices it's a tax because it comes in the form of inflation. You're still getting something for it.
Yeah, but especially at the gas tank, people are very sensitive.
Right.
Very sensitive to that, and that's where I think Biden has made a big mistake in letting the gas prices go up. He'll have to figure that out. But everybody's talking about how there's going to be food shortages and things are going to get worse. You hear anything about that?
I just got over the winter of death, so I'm looking.
Okay. you're looking for positive news, then. Huh?
I mean, look, yeah, it's concerning. I mean, if the horror stories that you hear is that people are buying up, the Chinese are buying up land in the Midwest, and Bill Gates is buying up land, and some stuff that would really disrupt the supply chain. That's really scary. Uh, New Jersey, I think, if we had food shortages in New Jersey in December or January, we'd last 3 days.
Oh, no. Spoonful's got you covered here. He says pine trees are edible. And I know you guys have got tons of pine trees,
Yeah.
so you're good.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Well, but that's what we're going to burn to heat our houses, though. It's the pine trees.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You're going to have to work this out somehow.
I know. Well, I mean, somebody once said New York City at any one time only has 3 days worth of supply of food. So,
and I think that's true for most towns and most places around. And you hit on, that's my second biggest thing that bothers me is that we have this idea that you can be independent but not have a secure food source.
right.
It's not. That's crazy. You anybody that thinks that they are living free and independent, but doesn't know where a week's worth of food is coming from, is living in fool's paradise.
Right.
And that's one of the things I point out about, because where I live down here in Southern Maryland, at the time of the Revolutionary War, they were exporting food like crazy. They had big farms, and just the amount of wheat and corn and other things that they could grow was far more than they needed. And now it's completely opposite. That we have to import food here, and because we've got so many people, and there's the farms that we do have are not growing food; they're growing soybeans or something industrial. It's crazy. How can anybody think they can have a free, anything, whether it's a country or a state or a county or even just this little island that I live on? Why can't we have it as one of the primary functions of our culture that everybody belongs to a self-sufficient community with regard to food? I don't know whether it has to be 100 people or 100,000 people, but depending upon the geography and how much rain you get and how much sunlight, different factors are going to appear. But I would think that to try to organize a society around a food culture would make a lot more sense than what we're doing right now, with just everybody just living haphazard and a cluster development here or a high rise there, not organized in terms of providing food, which is the most important function of community, I would think. Any thoughts on that?
No, it's appealing now. I mean, a couple years ago, I would have said that doesn't make any sense. New Jersey moved from an agrarian economy 150 years ago to industrialization, but because we like all those creature comforts. But now I think you have to look at if they're trying to kill us, and famine is usually a good way to kill a bunch of people. We have to break free of the that chain of that chain of consumption. It's amazing that how much we have moved away from it. The environmentalists are always complaining about the trees. There's not enough trees or anything. If you look at pictures of Jersey back in 100 years ago, there was no trees in Jersey. I mean, there was no trees to be found. We have tons more trees now.
But the mafia sold them all, right?
It was all farmland, okay, and that's what you heated your house with. So, but the farmland has moved further and further away from the cities. Transportation's improved. You don't need farms in New Jersey to feed New York City. You have farms in California or out in the hinterlands, flyover country to feed New York City. But you do see community gardens around. I mean, I did pass a community garden walking the dog the other day, which it hasn't started yet, but it's a pretty decent size. I mean, there's plenty, there's plenty of soccer fields. If it really came down to it, there's plenty of soccer fields that could be converted to beef farming or something.
Oh no, you can't have beef anymore.
Beets.
Oh, beets. Oh yeah, beets is good. Yeah,
something you don't want.
No beef. You can't. No, no. You know about this, right? It's all plant-based food, Bill.
Right.
Plant-based. Yeah, it might look like beef,
but none of this is good for the environment. I can,
no.
The high price of natural gas. When my natural gas bill was through the roof. If I still had a wood burning fireplace, I would be burning wood. All right, what does it take to really get people to start burning wood and just chopping down all the trees in their backyard? There is a price, some price. Okay, it makes sense to chop down your trees.
At some point, it does, and then of course other people will chop them down for you, like the British, for instance. You know, if you were in Ireland and you grew up in a country that was covered with an oak forest, and it was just the most beautiful, magical place that you could ever imagine, and then one day, the local lord says, "Well, you know what? I need a couple $100,000 more, Bob, to build a new coach from coaching for my son and daughter. So I'm just going to sell all my timber today." And then out come the big swords, and big saws, and away go the trees. And the people that live there, the culture that was built around the woods, is gone. And it's this there's an Irish song called "Kilcash" in the Irish language about what will we do without timber, they called it. And indeed, it's a huge problem. It definitely leads to starvation. The other thing I wanted to say on the point of fire, I've been looking at a person who goes by Defense Politics Asia on YouTube, and he provides commentary and maps of the Ukraine war. And one of the things he's been doing lately has been overlaying or comparing I think it's the U.S. Forest Service that has a fire sensors that was satellites, and they can see where fires are all around the world. So they show Ukraine, and you can see where all these little red dots represent fires. And he's saying, well, this could be artillery position because it's, looks like it could be a fire. Well, for instance, but if you look at the wider map, there's this one spot that's huge. It's got fires like packed right next to each other. Like the whole thing is made up of little fires. And it's this place called Königsberg. And Königsberg is between I think between Latvia and Estonia or something. It's part of what used to be in Prussia, and then it got kind of part of Poland for a while. And then after World War II, believe it or not, nobody wanted it, so it still belongs to Russia. But if you look at that little bit of land, it is just covered with fire dots. And then if you look at the difference between Western Europe and Eastern Europe, you see the same thing. In Western Europe, they're using natural gas for heat.
Right.
But in Eastern Europe and Russia, there's fires everywhere. And that means people are still burning wood. And that's a big problem. We don't want that to happen here in the United States either. We can't. I don't want you to burn your pine trees up, Bill, especially since you might have to eat them.
Yeah.
So don't burn the pine trees, please.
Yeah, but then we don't need. I don't need a $600 gas bill because we're getting very close. We're going to start whaling too soon if it gets more expensive. If the price of energy gets expensive. It's just the unintended consequence of the environmentalist movement is they never realized, okay, we have whales because we can drill it out of the ground. We don't have to drill whale heads anymore. But at some point it becomes economical to go after the whales again. Okay, and then we're right back to 1870, and there's no whales to be had. It's it's the stupidity of the moment. Let's punish Russia by stopping to buy the gas, or let's not build this pipeline because it's going to affect the environment. Okay. But when gas is $20-$30 a gallon, okay, will affect the environment in another way. We'll drive around in steam cars from the Pine Barrens, fueled by the Pine Barrens in New Jersey, and because people are just not going to sit still. You can't outlaw these things.
I don't know, man. They could lock us down with COVID. They can lock us down in any way they want to.
Yeah.
I want to, see the USA in my Chevrolet. I still want to, do that nice American tour that I've never done. I want to drive across the country with my wife and see the USA. I hope they let us do that when I can finally talk the wife into doing it when she retires, hopefully soon. Gosh. Oh, okay. So anything else you want to cover tonight before we wrap it up, Bill? I've enjoyed talking to you and getting caught up on what's going on from your point of view.
Not too much. I haven't put out too much yet on the website recently. Just my short pieces. There was an interesting video of Governor Murphy drunk in the Hard Rock Casino last week, which got a lot of attention. It was almost the link is on my website on the news section. It was almost like
I saw it. He did look kind of.
I thought it was interesting. I think I was more there than people are letting on. It was sort of a public humiliation, I thought. I think he could have gone a bunch of different ways. He didn't have to walk through the casino like that. They have corridors for people who are VIPs and too drunk to be in public.
And with a young woman on his arm.
That was his wife. You never saw the face. Nobody's saying that it was somebody other than his wife. Might have been people might have been saying that, but just it was her.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'm glad you know that. But yeah, it sounds maybe some kind of a perp walk, huh?
It was just. I thought it was just humiliating. It didn't, because he's a drunk. Everybody knows he's a drunk, and he didn't have to. He had one cop. Those places, Hard Rock especially, which is very popular. They have all kinds of hotel security. They could have easily gotten 7 or 8 people around him, so nobody could take a video of that.
Sure, and I imagine that state cop that the filmmaker was, kind of jibing with, the state cop could have just smacked him. I mean,
yeah, he didn't even have to do that. He usually has, he gets a ride. He gets a ride to his office every morning. I mean, people see him all the time. He's got 3 or 4 cops on detail. There was only that one cop, which I thought was a little bit odd. I think there's more to that than what we saw on Twitter or wherever it was posted. I saw it on Twitter.
All right, guys. Bill's website is d-stateanalytics.com, and you can catch up with all of his work right there. He's got a couple of publications you can pick up there and support his work with the support buttons he has there on his website. Thanks again, Bill Taylor, for update from New Jersey, the deep state from your point of view. And oh man, I worry about your young folks and their friends, and just Godspeed, and hope everything turns out all right for everyone.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks everyone. Good night.
Good night.